Come into our home and sit yourself right down, 'cause we are traveling around the world. Yeah, 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 yeah. You head for the west of Ireland, I'll head for Rome.
From the very beginning of PELE, I was on a mission to form an undeniably good band with, you know, the best songs that I'd ever written up until that point. I think I was about 26, something like that. So I went and actually knocked on Robbo's door in Chester. I'd been busking all day in Chester and went and banged on Robbo's door, and I'd seen him play keyboards for a band called the Bordellos. I thought, I want that guy in my new band.
So he come knocking on my door one day, and he said, "Do you fancy having a go?" I thought, yeah, I'll have a bit of that.
And from then we got Dally on the drums, Jim on the bass, and then Nico came in last on the fiddle, and we had our unit then.
Met Ian, I give it 10 minutes chatting, and I thought, I want to do this. And there was loads of bands looking for drummers at the time, and I actually got off with a couple of little bands, but I wasn't fucking touching any of them. I just wanted to do the Ian thing.
I got involved because I kind of went to see Ian. I'd seen him in his earlier band, Joseph Groom Towers, and I think things were kind of falling a little bit apart for them, and we sat down and had a chat, and I didn't know what I was really going to do in my life. I was an aspiring producer really at the time, and Ian played me some songs, and I just thought, fucking hell.
I was writing for the NME at the time that the band started, and I think I did the very first live review of them, which was thankfully a good one, with them and a band called The Substitutes, who I slagged off The Substitute but gave PELE a glowing review and said I thought they'd do well. I then did the first sort of feature on them for NME as well, which is in a section called On. Then it was edited by Steve Lamach. It was the time of baggy, so everyone was trying to be the Stone Roses really, or the Happy Mondays, and Liverpool bands were as guilty as any. You know, everyone who was in a band suddenly started putting the wah-wah pedal on, wearing big flares and stuff like that. And then there was this band with the great name PELE, who sounded like they should be, you know, looking like the Stone Roses, and were playing this music with the fiddle and Hammond in. So it was probably, you know, it was brave of Ian, probably with hindsight a wise move, because it made, you know, that scene died fairly quickly. But yeah, it was fairly contrary to what everybody else was doing, and probably brave of the record company to sign him as well. But I think obviously what made them get signed was the strength of the tunes.
I just remember being really blown away by them live. I thought Ian had such a great rapport with his audience, and I really liked it. Said I wanted to get behind them and promote them, and we were up for doing whatever it took to get the name out there and put some shows on.
The live shows were just frantic. I've never seen an audience, and I've been to thousands of gigs by massive bands and by small bands, and you just never seen an audience enjoy itself as much, you know, as anywhere. And that, you can't deny that. That was a fact.
There were some Heineken big tops where it did not matter where PELE were on the actual bill. They could be headlining, fourth from the top, you know, they could be anywhere on the bill. When PELE walked out, half the audience was wearing their t-shirts. And it was an absolute monster gig. So if they could be third on the bill, fourth on the bill, it was their show. Sometimes the headline acts were walking out and 3/4 of the audience had gone home because they'd seen PELE.
Don't know why, they would always seem really massively popular in the Midlands. You used to get like massive crowds, and that was like going to see any band that I'd been to see before, like going to see the Jam or something. The crowd's response was fantastic.
We did this show. I introduced the band, and as it is, with the single, Here We Go Boys and Girls, please welcome in the old John Weller style, the best fucking band in the world. And everyone's kind of milling around, and it's like, yeah, whatever, knobhead. So, first song starts, and you can see a few heads bobbing. Second song, a few more people have started milling forward. Third song, Raid the Palace. They're at the front then. By the fourth song, Mega Mania, the place is bouncing. And it was just unbelievable. I just thought, we're onto something here.
They'd up the ante, which is what you need to do. So they'd taken what they'd done on the album and they took it a stage further. Still to this day, one of the most exciting guys to go and watch live.
It went on to bigger and bigger venues, and the Irish Centre and the Adelphi and the Royal Court and places like that, and they were all fine because it showed the fan base was growing. But in terms of a room and an atmosphere, I don't think any of those places could really get to where the atmosphere in this place was that particular night.
The room takes about 175 people. We had about 400 people. Did I say I meant 200? No, we had about 400 people in here. And we'd had it before, and it was great, and it was bouncing and rocking. And I'm at the end of the venue, the mixing desk end of the venue. And my bosses from the Picket or the trade union said, they come up the stairs and said, "What's going on? What's going on? How many people have you got in there?" I said, "About 175. They said, "Come and see this." So he took me downstairs, and underneath the venue, there's like these things, you know, they pull a false ceiling in, and you take them out and you can see the actual floor. Well, this is a Victorian building. It wasn't made for rock and roll gigs.
So it was oversubscribed probably by about 100 people, which manifested itself into, it would be fine if it was Bell and Sebastian or you know, some sort of very laid-back poetry reading, but it was a certain type of poetry reading, and it was far from laid-back.
How did I become the producer of Fireworks? Well, I've got to kind of blame my ex-wife for this, because I was given a bunch of demos on a cassette from the record company, and I didn't get past the first track. And then a little while later, my ex-wife comes to me and says, "Have you listened to that cassette?" And I said, "Yeah, no, I'm passing on it." And she said, "Are you sure?" I said, yeah. They're doing this song and it goes ma 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 ma. I can't sit and do that. She goes, "I think you're wrong." I said, "Why?" And she goes, "Listen to the cassette. There's another couple of tracks in there." And there was this track called Policeman. And I thought, oh my God, this is really, really very, very good.
Recording the album. Everyone used to buy me drinks. And say, "Get on the keyboard and start playing." And I'd be on the Hammond and it'd just end up in a big mess. Rock and roll.
Well, the thing is about your very first album is you never ever get the chance to do that again. So your first ever record is, you know, in many ways it's always going to be the most special. Even down to the artwork. I'd been interrailing across Europe and I'd seen this in the Louvre in Paris, and it was just around the corner from the Mona Lisa, and I'd seen it. I went, if I ever get a record deal, I want that beautiful painting, the young martyr, to be the sleeve. That came to pass, and all these songs I'd written for it, it all came to pass. So it's always an incredibly special thing. We did this residency the summer of 1990 on the second floor in Flanagans on Matthew Street, and it was kind of like our Hamburg, really. As every week passed by, there was more and more people.
The first gig was kind of healthy. But the word got round in a week or something. It was just crazy. And I don't know how that sort of zeitgeist thing happens. I just don't know. And it was full the second week. And the third week was just insane. We had them queuing up outside. You know the stairs? We were playing upstairs. Queuing up the stairs and out.
So by the fourth week, there was a huge big queue right down Matthew Street to come in and watch us. And there was also a thunderstorm, so I remember like there was a river flowing down the street and people running out the way.
But the streets were full of water. Not so you could swim, but I'm talking up to your knees. It was bizarre. And I can remember there was police there, and there was fire engines on the ends of the street, and it was weird.
And we had the huge big PELE flag as well across the street. So we were like an army that had taken over. And the songs were just beginning to find their feet then, you know.
I know Ian always says he kind of got a taste of thinking that this is, I used to say I always knew my songs were good. And then when the band was created, I always knew the band was good. But it kind of all just went, yeah, at that point. And I think he might be right. That might be that little point when it went, oh, this is good.
And I wish you'd come home. She said she loved him, but she said she gotta go. Laughing out loud, drinking and stay drunk. I'm happy to say there's no you and me. I never been away from England for this long before. I never been away from England for this long before.
My favourite ever PELE gig, oh God, there were so many, you know. Kent University, Wolverhampton University, Warwick University, Loughborough University, Kingston University, Glasgow King Tut, it was Trowbridge, Psychic Pig, Bath Moles, and all of these places all over the country. We went and played them 3 or 4 times.
I'll tell you where I used to like playing was up in Scotland, in Glasgow, King Tut's Wawa Hut. I used to like it up there because me and Jim used to go out over the road to all the karaoke bars and watch the Scottish fellas singing, "You just dragging me down, I was flying so high."
We played in Portugal and we played in this bar, and I enjoyed that gig because I enjoyed that time.
I just remember the TV going out the window and the bang, I can still hear the bang it made when it hit the ground.
You know, with PELE, to try and pick one gig's really, really difficult because, as I say, as a manager, I was out on the road for hundreds of them. But one that may surprise Ian was that it was actually one of the supports they did. And we'd been playing down in London and the agent got in touch and said, tomorrow night, St Patrick's night, do you want to go and play with the Pogues up at the Barrowland in Glasgow? Well, that's about the most ridiculous question you could ask this band. And we did the gig and floored it up. And the atmosphere in the Barrowlands that night was just incredible.
My favourite ever actual show, oh gosh. Probably the first time we ever played the Royal Court, because the Royal Court was the place you wanted to play. I'd seen the Jam there, Paul McCartney, the Stranglers, Prefab Sprout, and when we finally got to play it, and we did a great show as well, that was the one whereby...
Went to the BBC and they had Saturday Morning Superstore or Why Are You Up So Early, whatever the programme was called. And they played the video to Raid the Palace because they loved it. And then on the Monday morning, the producer of the show was on the phone to the record company going, if I'd have known what that song was about, I wouldn't have played it. I couldn't have shown it, you know, because it's kids' TV and what have you. And that was the beauty and the genius of the work of Ian as a lyricist, supported by or in conjunction with an amazing cast of players. You know, I mean, you don't come across many bands who can walk into a studio and make a record as that 25 years later is probably hotter than it sounded then.
Well, the thing about the band was we were all very different people, you know, and the hybrid of it all is what makes the record sound so different, you know, because I was into the Celtic soul thing, But Robbo was this great like Stranglers Hammond organ player, you know, an incredibly inventive musicality that he had. And Dally was this like frenetic drummer. And it was kind of me and Dally who were the soul of the band in terms of us trying to get somewhere. You know, me and Dally would go and make the posters and put them up down Bold Street, made huge big posters on bits of wallpaper. And me and Dally went out and did all of that. You know, we were the engine of trying to get it all off the ground. And Jim was like a funk bass player, you know. We never let him play funk, obviously, that would never have happened. But he had a certain different angle. And then over the top of it was Nico and a classical fiddle playing. And when you put it all together with those tunes, nothing else sounded like it, you know. And it was a hell of a stew. So everything went right with the record, and I wouldn't change anything about it. You know, I wouldn't change any of the songs, how it was produced, or anything. I just think it stands as exactly how it was, how it should be.
I knew it was good then because I wasn't stupid. You know, like some musicians are just stupid and they think everything's great they're doing.
Put the album on the other day again just to give it a whirl, and I was surprised, you know, how good it sounded. The first opening bars of Raid the Palace really took me back, but it didn't seem like 25 years ago.
I listen to it now and it sounds contemporary.
The songs are brilliant. The songs were always brilliant.
The thing that arcs the album for me is that it's astonishing. I mean, it's a tour de force of songwriting. The lyrical journey it takes you on, if you read the lyrics on the album sleeve. The Nazis are hunting down Jews, flaying the skin off their back for lampshade and tattoos. If you can hide that lyric in a pop song, you're way, way beyond an average writer, which, you know, made one critic say that Prowsey was, you're probably embarrassed by this, but Prowsey was Liverpool's most important writer since John Lennon. And I'd probably agree with that, wholeheartedly.
I think we sounded great then. It sounds great now.
I'd probably say that this album, and I've worked with quite a lot of bands, is probably my favourite album out of all the bands I've worked with.